Welcome to part 1 of Network Administration, Managing Your Digital Twin. First, we're going to look at an introduction to administration, managing your digital twin. Then, describing process networks, how to expand your networks, and finally, populating your shared workspaces. One of the key components of the network is the digital twin. A digital twin is a digital copy of your company, its locations, and all its possible global identifiers represented on our network. Basically, administration is the management of your digital twin, as well as the modeling of your supply chain network and orchestrations in the digital world. The structure of your digital twin consists of process networks. These create the shared digital workspaces to orchestrate different kinds of business processes, like logistics and manufacturing, through a single platform. Partners and links. Here you build and expand your process networks by adding supply chain partners to your database. Users. Define a user's access based on the relationship that user has with business processes and partners. Let's take a look at process networks now. As just mentioned, process networks create a shared digital workspace to orchestrate different kinds of business processes through a single platform. Let's take a closer look at what we mean by orchestrating business processes. A multi-enterprise application enables a network through linking to partners. Mint is a multi-enterprise application. It is also considered a multi-network application, which is a multi-enterprise application that can be applied to multiple process networks. But why might you want multiple networks for one application? Because of the business processes you're working on. For example, branded versus generic, human versus animal, or EU versus USA products. The partners and end users who are working on the branded side of business exchanges are not the same people who are working on the generic side. Therefore, process networks allow you to link your partners like CMOs to your Mint for branded network, while you may link a different CMO to your Mint for generic network. You can exchange the appropriate transactions in the proper business context on each network. Please note that a process network can include more than one orchestration to show your full end-to-end supply chain, from manufacturing to logistics to commerce or the end customer. Here are some things you should think about as we go through the administration functions. What data are you exchanging with your partners, or do you want to exchange with your partners? And how would you orchestrate these? Would you benefit from creating multiple networks for the different business use cases? How would you divide the work for your end users? What would you want them to have access to? For today, we're going to look at this in the context of manufacturing. You're exchanging manufacturing transactions including POs, invoices, ASNs, inventory balance, and inventory adjustment. So you create a process network called Mint for generic and apply the Mint solution. You want certain groups to have visibility and/or the ability to create the transactions, so you add users from various teams. It really depends on how your company is set up, but maybe you add procurement, planning, shipping, receiving, and so on. We'll use this example in this course. Please note that we are simplifying the network to one orchestration for demo purposes. Let's look at what process networks looks like in the system. Go to the main menu and select Administration. Click on this icon to add a new network. For the application, select Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower. Network name. We're going to choose Mint for Generics. By default, the base solution is selected. With OSC, the company solution, you can configure a solution. We're going to stick with the standard solution here. Then select Add. Now that we have our network, let's take a look at the options. The idea of network administration is to start from the network and navigate out to links and users. You can also use these menu items on the side if you wish. Edit network. This allows you to change the name of your network and apply a different solution to it. Set workflow subscriptions. This is for compliance applications. You would set a workflow to trigger a compliance report when a shipment is sent, for example. View roles. This is an informational view-only panel that shows all the roles available in your network. We're now going to take a look at how to expand your networks. We created our process network, but to create the entities to use the network, you need to add partners and link to them. If you're familiar with our TTS serialization applications, the concept is exactly the same. You're linking to a partner through a multi-enterprise application to exchange data. The main difference is you exchange compliance data in TTS, and you're exchanging business and supply chain data through Mint. To create and expand your network, you need partners. In terms of linking to an entity to exchange data, this can be done with internal locations and with partners outside of your company. In this context, internal locations would be considered partners. They're still entered in company master data as locations. This is what makes them internal. They're set up as part of your company, but you enable them for linking. There could be different reasons you might link to an internal location, depending on the application. For compliance-related data, you would do this to exchange serialized data with your manufacturing line, for example. For Mint, it would depend on how you had your system set up, but perhaps you want the same inventory level and adjustment reporting as you use for your CMOs, in which case you would want to link to them. However, in our manufacturing example today, we're going to consider this external manufacturing, so we'll be linking with our CMOs. We'll enter them in partner master data. You must enter the company level master data, but you can also enter locations in partner master data. You could link to the company or location level. Why might you want to link to a partner location versus partner company level? Some examples are the locations have different systems that need different B2B connections or different file formats, or they represent different legal entities, so you want to keep their data separate. Today we'll be linking at the partner company level. Basically, you need the partner's name and at least one global identifier. Some examples are a GLN, SGLN, DUNS, HIN, etc. Remember, your company has a digital twin on the network, but so do each one of your partners. Think of the global identifiers as the digital address of your partner on the TraceLink network. Before we move on, let's think about this. If I did want to separate the business processes I use with my internal locations from the processes I use with my CMOs, how could I do that? I could create another process network just for my internal locations. I could apply the same solution to it that I use for my external partners, or if I wanted, I could configure a solution with OSE that only has the manufacturing transactions I use for my internal manufacturing processes. Let's take a look at how to set up partner master data now. To access partner master data, go to the main menu, select master data, go to partner, partners, and add new. Type in the name of your partner. Add an identifier, for example, a GLN. Set it to the primary identifier. Click Apply and Save. Your partner will then appear in the table. To add the address, click into the partner you've added and select Edit. Here you can add the address if necessary. Remember to save any changes. If you need to add a location to your partner, go to Partners, click on Add New, and select your partner from the drop-down menu. Enter your partner's location's name, and then select the identifier. From there you can save and add an address if necessary. Let's now move on to linking. At this point you have your process network and you've entered your partners into master data, so TraceLink knows what address to look for on the network. Now it's time to link to that partner. When you create the link, it basically means that TraceLink confirmed the digital address of your partner's digital twin and added it to your address book. If the identifiers of your partner are not on the network yet, Tracing's network operations team verifies the identifiers and adds the partner. The link represents a quasi-conduit through which you exchange data. I say quasi because there isn't an actual conduit. It simply means that Tracing knows you and knows your partner, so Tracing can use the linked app to send data back and forth. It also enables your partner's shared secure workspace. While you're enabling their workspace, you provide them with roles that they can assign to their team members to get the proper access they need. We're going to take a closer look at user roles in the next section, but it's important to understand that it's you, as the owner of the application, in this case Mint, who provides the roles for your partner's team's access. Let's take a look at linking to partners in the system now. To link to a partner, from the main menu select Administration and go to Links. To add a new link, click this icon. Select an application, in our case Multi-Enterprise Information Network Tower, and Network, in our case Manufacturing Information Network for generics. Here you would select an entity. The Send Notification to field is optional. You can leave the Send Notification to field blank unless you want to notify someone at the partner company. Unlike in TTS, they do not have to accept the link for it to become active. The link is automatically active once completed. Click on Next. And here you select the roles available for an admin at the partner company to assign to their users. For Mint, these are based on orchestrations. All available roles vary based on the solution. Select the desired roles for this link. Then click Link. The new link will then be created. Before we proceed, here's a quick question. What 2 steps do you need to complete to create and expand your network? First, you add partners to master data. Then you link to partners. We're now going to take a look at how to populate your shared workspaces. To populate your shared workspace, you add users to Tracing and to your process network. In this case, it is your Mint process network. Roles define access in Tracing. Each application, no matter which type of application it is, enterprise, multi-enterprise, or multi-network, has related roles. Regardless of the application, there are 2 main types of roles: administrator roles and member roles. We're going to set aside the administrator role for a moment and talk just about the member roles. Know that in Opus, you must have a member role in order to access the application. Solutions come with included roles. Typically, this includes a member with standard access, a member with expanded access, and corresponding partner roles. What those roles mean are dependent on the solution. In Mint, roles are also divided based on orchestrations and their related business activities. For example, for the commerce orchestration, there are customer and supplier roles. Customer standard access roles can only view transactions. Customer expanded access can create transactions such as purchase orders. You can access a complete list of the roles for each standard solution in the Help Center for that solution. Let's now take a look at how to assign these roles. To add a new user, go to Administration and Users. This tab is for the multi-network applications like Mint. Apps refers to both enterprise and multi-enterprise apps, just not multi-network. We're going to add our user from the All tabs. This shows all the users set up. To add a new user, click on this icon and Add User. Enter the email address, the first name, last name. If you want to add another user, click on Add Another. Otherwise, just simply click on Add. If you're familiar with TTS, at this point you'd have to wait for the user to accept the invite to join. Luckily, you don't have to do that when you add users from Opus, so we can go straight to adding our user to the network. Note that users are network objects. What this means is, if I create the user in the Opus UI, you'll also see the user in TTS, because we're adding the user to Tracing as a whole. Here's my newly added user. From here I can click on these three dots and we'll see a number of options. We'll select Assign to Network. Select the network, Manufacturing Information Network for generics. Scroll down and select the role. Note the different roles we see here. We're going to select Manufacturing Customer Standard. If I want to add more roles, I click the Assign Another link. To assign the role, click Assign. When the user logs in, they'll have access to that network. As we just saw, adding a user to a network gives them access to that network. For administrative functions, like all the stuff we've been talking about today, we have admin roles. There are two main types of admin roles. The system administrator has full access to administration functions. This is for any app or network and configuration. This is basically a super admin and is similar to the company administrator role in TTS, except that this administrator can assign any role, whereas in TTS you can only assign the app manager role. Application administrators, similar to application managers in TTS, have administrative access to the applications for which they are administrators. However, unlike application managers in TTS, they do not have access to that application. It's important to remember that no matter which admin role the user has, in order to access a network, they need to be assigned a member role on that network. System administrators can assign the member role for any network to themselves. Application administrators can assign a member role for the app that they administer to themselves. Also note that partners have these same roles for their digital twins. However, only owners can create process networks and link. Let's take a look at assigning the administrator roles now. To assign users to admin roles, find the user and click on the Actions icon. Select Assign to Application Administrator role. Here, either select the Application Administrator or System Administrator. For the Application Administrator, you'll select the network. Note that if you select the System Administrator, there's no network to select, since the System Administrator is the administrator of the whole system, not a particular network. Then select Assign. This brings us to the end of this training session. Here are the key takeaways. Administration is the management of your digital twin. Process networks create shared digital workspaces to orchestrate different kinds of business processes through a single platform. You add partners and link to them to create the network and enable the shared workspace for your partners. Populate your team's shared workspace by adding users to the network. If you have any questions, please feel free to email tracelinkuniversity@tracelink.com.